Michael Turner always woke before dawn. It wasn't insomnia, not really, just the kind of restless awareness that came with middle age, a quiet clock ticking in the back of his mind. At 5:30 on a Wednesday in late May, he sat on the edge of the bed, watching the faint orange glow creep through the shutters of their Charleston home. The ceiling fan hummed above, a steady rhythm against the silence. Beside him, Emily stirred but didn't wake. She lay curled, her auburn hair fanned across the pillow like spilled paint, her breathing steady. For years, Michael found comfort in that sight, the woman he married, the life they built. But lately, something gnawed at him. It was subtle at first, her laughter on the phone when she thought he wasn't listening, the way she lingered in the mirror a little longer before work, new clothes he hadn't seen her buy. Michael wasn't a jealous man by nature. He had grown up in South Carolina, raised on quiet traditions and the belief that family was sacred. But intuition had a way of whispering where logic hesitated. And now, that whisper was getting louder. The Turners lived on the northern edge of downtown Charleston, in a renovated two-story house shaded by live oaks and dripping Spanish moss. Their neighbors waved from porches in the evenings, the smell of shrimp and grits often drifted from kitchens. Charleston had a charm that felt timeless, its cobblestone streets and horse-drawn carriages attracting tourists year-round. Michael worked as a project manager for a construction firm, often overseeing historic restorations. Emily was a real estate agent, polished and personable, the kind of woman who could convince anyone to fall in love with a house. They had been married 12 years, childless by choice, and outwardly, theirs looked like a marriage others envied. But cracks, Michael thought, always started small. On a humid Saturday afternoon, Michael found himself standing in the kitchen, waiting for Emily to return from what she called a showing. She had left 2 hours earlier in a silk blouse he'd never seen, her perfume clinging to the air long after the door shut. Her phone buzzed on the counter. Normally, Michael wouldn't touch it. But the screen lit with a message. "Can't wait to see you tonight. D." Michael's pulse thudded. He stared at the glowing letters, the heat rising in his chest. He told himself there had to be an explanation, clients, friends, a harmless mistake. But deep down, something snapped. When Emily came home, she was glowing. Too much. He forced a smile, masking the storm beneath his ribs. Michael didn't confront her. Not yet. Instead, he observed. Every detail became evidence, the late-night calls, her excuses for happy hours with colleagues, her sudden obsession with fitness classes. One evening, he followed her. He told her he had paperwork to finish at the office but instead trailed her car through the winding streets. She didn't head downtown toward the brokerage. Instead, she drove west, past the Ashley River, to a small boutique hotel. Michael parked across the street, heart pounding, and watched her step into the lobby. Minutes later, a man in a tailored suit joined her. They embraced, not the polite hug of acquaintances but the kind of embrace that burned with familiarity. Michael's throat went dry. The man was Daniel Hartman, a real estate developer, wealthy and smooth-talking. Michael had met him once at a fundraiser. He remembered Daniel's easy charm, the way Emily had laughed at his jokes. And now, there they were, disappearing together into an elevator. Michael said nothing for days. He carried the secret like a stone in his chest, heavy and unrelenting. At work, he misread blueprints. At home, he studied her with cold detachment. Emily, oblivious, continued her charade. She kissed him goodnight, smiled at him over breakfast, but her eyes were distant. He noticed the way she checked her phone under the table, the faint curve of her lips when a message arrived. One night, unable to bear it, Michael asked, "Do you love me, Em?" She looked startled. "Of course I do. Why would you even ask that?" But the hesitation in her voice betrayed her. The final straw came on a rainy Friday evening. Michael left work early and drove to the hotel again. He waited in the parking lot, rain streaking down his windshield, until Emily's car appeared. This time, he followed them inside. His stomach churned as he rode the elevator, the numbers climbing too slowly. On the 5th floor, he heard laughter echoing down the hall. He followed it like a man possessed until he reached a door left ajar. Inside, Emily and Daniel were tangled on the bed, sheets twisted around them, oblivious to everything but each other. Michael stood frozen, the scene burning into his eyes. Then he turned and walked away, silent, rain-soaked, his chest hollow. The next days were a blur. Michael moved like a ghost through the house, his mind sharp with a single thought: she betrayed me. But Michael was not impulsive. He was calculating. Quietly, he began preparing. He met with a divorce lawyer, learning South Carolina's unforgiving laws about adultery, how it stripped the guilty spouse of alimony rights, how the courts viewed betrayal with cold severity. He copied bank statements, emails, and photos. He documented everything, building his case piece by piece. To Emily, he remained the same steady husband, masking the war beneath his calm exterior. One evening at dinner, Michael finally spoke. "I know, Emily." She froze, fork halfway to her lips. "Know what?" "Daniel. The hotel. All of it." His voice was steady, almost gentle, but his eyes burned. The blood drained from her face. "Michael, I don't lie. Not now." Tears welled in her eyes, but he felt nothing. Only a strange, cold relief. "Do you love him?" he asked. Emily's silence was answer enough. The divorce was brutal. Emily begged, pleaded, then raged. She claimed it was just an affair, that it didn't mean she didn't love him. But the evidence was irrefutable, and Charleston's courts did not favor adulterers. Michael kept the house, most of their savings, and his dignity. Emily moved into a downtown apartment, her reputation in tatters, whispers following her at open houses and community gatherings. Daniel, it turned out, had no intention of leaving his own wife. Emily was left adrift, the man she gambled everything for slipping away. Months later, Michael sat on the back porch, a glass of bourbon in hand, watching the Charleston sunset bleed across the sky. The air was thick with summer, cicadas buzzing in the distance. He thought of Emily, not with longing, but with the cold clarity of someone who survived fire. She had burned their marriage to the ground, but he had walked away from the ashes, scarred yet standing. When a neighbor waved from across the fence, Michael lifted his glass. To new beginnings, he murmured to no one but himself. And for the first time in years, he felt free. Life after divorce wasn't as simple as Michael imagined. The house felt too large, too quiet. At night he sat at the kitchen table, the ticking of the wall clock louder than ever. Sometimes he thought he still heard Emily's footsteps, her laughter drifting through the hallway. But it was only silence. Emily tried to hold herself together, but Charleston had a long memory. Clients stopped calling. Colleagues whispered. Daniel, the man she had gambled everything for, slipped out of her life with practiced ease. It was fun while it lasted, he told her, retreating back to his wife and children. Emily was left with nothing but regret. One evening, Michael found a handwritten letter in his mailbox. The script was unmistakably hers. "I made a mistake. I still love you. Please, can we talk?" He read it twice. Instead of sorrow, fury rose in his chest. And yet, buried deep within, was a dangerous flicker of weakness, because for so many years, he had loved her. Around that time, Sarah entered his life, a colleague from the construction firm. She had a calm presence, a gentle smile, and a way of listening without judgment. Unlike Emily, there was no pretense in her words. Their conversations stretched from work matters to long walks along the Battery. Slowly, without realizing it, Michael began to heal, but Emily wasn't ready to let go. One rainy evening she appeared at his doorstep, soaked through, eyes wild with desperation. "Michael, I've lost everything. Please, don't let me lose you too." For a moment, he saw the woman he once adored. But behind her trembling lips, he saw the hotel room again, the betrayal etched into his memory. Emily discovered Sarah's existence. Jealousy consumed her, twisting into obsession. She called, texted, showed up at his home demanding explanations. Michael saw her unravel, no longer the seductive, confident woman he once knew, but a broken figure lashing out at shadows. Emily turned to alcohol. Neighbors saw her stumbling through the streets late at night. During one house showing, she broke down in front of clients, screaming, crying, shaking. Within days, her brokerage severed ties. She retreated into a shabby apartment on the city's edge, surrounded by empty bottles and old photographs of the life she'd destroyed. Meanwhile, Michael's world found balance again. With Sarah, he felt peace he hadn't known in years. One evening in late summer, at a candlelit restaurant on King Street, he reached across the table. "I never thought I'd trust again. But with you, I believe. Will you marry me?" Her soft yes brought a warmth he thought had died forever. News of his engagement shattered Emily. One night she stormed to his house, screaming on the porch. "She will never replace me. Never." Sarah stood inside, watching with wide eyes. Michael stepped onto the porch, his voice steady, final. "You destroyed us, Emily. And there's no coming back." The words cut deeper than any knife. Emily staggered away into the darkness, her figure swallowed by the night. A month later, Michael heard the news. Emily had died in a late-night car crash on the highway. Drunk, she lost control and hit a concrete barrier. At her funeral, Michael stood at the coffin, looking down at the woman who once meant everything. His voice was barely a whisper. "You burned us both, but I survived." He left the cemetery and returned to Sarah. This time, he wasn't walking out of the ashes. He was walking into a life he chose, forged not from betrayal, but from resilience.